In jail, prisoner Beckett is visited by a priest who is surprised by how relaxed Beckett is, considering he'll be executed in a few hours. The priest points out that this may be the last time Beckett could have a proper conversation. So Beckett agrees to share his story. This starts with Beckett's mother, Mary. She comes from the wealthy Redfellow family in Long Island. So she's the heiress to a fortune valued at $19 billion. At 18, she meets Beckett's father, who's just a regular band member at a party. She instantly falls in love with him and they start a secret relationship. But she also ends up pregnant. Seeing her as a disgrace, her father gives her two options: either terminate the pregnancy or move out. Refusing to give up her baby, Mary moves to an average neighborhood in New Jersey. When she gives birth to Beckett, the sight of the baby is enough to give his father a pulmonary embolism. So he dies right there in the hospital. Now she's a single mother working as a secretary in the Department of Motor Vehicles. Every day she tells Beckett that she was kicked out of the house but not for the inheritance. The entire Redfellow fortune would pass down to the next oldest in line. And since Beckett is the youngest, he has to wait for everyone else to die, despite their financial issues. Mary makes sure to give Beckett culture, class, and style. He learns to play the piano and archery and wear suits even as a kid. During an archery class, Beckett meets Julia and instantly falls in love with her. Julia is rich and isn't impressed by Beckett because he's middle class. So he assures her that one day he'll inherit a lot of money. They become friends and Julia goes to Beckett's piano concert. When the lights go out, she holds his hand and even kisses him, but she immediately pulls away when the lights come back on. While Beckett is still a child, Mary gets terribly sick and ends up in the hospital after ignoring the symptoms. Beckett hopes her family will help, but nobody ever visits or calls. Mary tells him that he deserves better and makes him promise he won't give up until he has the right kind of life. Her final request before death is to be buried at the family plot, but the family never sends an answer. So her body ends up in a regular cemetery. Beckett watches her be buried while holding a lock of her hair and swears he'll demand his rightful place in the family home. The next day, Beckett rings the bell at the Redfellow mansion. The only answer is a letter brought by the butler. It coldly says they can't help him and it isn't even signed. Afterward, Beckett spends a long time in the foster care system and loses all contact with Julia. As an adult, Beckett works as a suit salesman. He keeps an eye on the Redfellows from afar, but nobody ever dies. One day, Beckett is shocked to see Julia at the suit store. She's still rich and has traveled around the world. He tries to ask her out, but unfortunately she's engaged. On her way out, she asks what happened with the Redfellow fortune. Beckett says he'll inherit it someday. So Julia tells him to call her when he kills them all. Later at home, Beckett looks at a locket with Mary's hair and remembers the promise he made. There are 7 Redfellows before him, so it's finally time to do something about them. The first one is Taylor, a broker at the family's finance firm. Beckett finds him easily because Taylor is always in the bars of the financial district. However, he realizes that killing his cousin is a crazy idea and decides to drop it. The next day, Beckett's boss announces he'll be transferred to the shipping center because the salesman position will go to his son. Beckett doesn't want to work in the warehouse, so he ends up losing his job instead. This makes something in him finally break. Sometime later, Taylor arrives at a party on a helicopter and throws dollar bills at the guests before jumping into the pool. Beckett Asali sneaks into this party because the doors are wide open, and watching Taylor take in his jet ski to a yacht gives him an idea. Beckett also gets on a jet ski and goes to the yacht where Taylor thinks he's an employee. After confirming there's nobody else on the yacht, Beckett waits until Taylor's asleep and ties the anchor to his ankle. There's only 1 second of hesitation before he throws the anchor into the water. At that moment, Taylor wakes up, but it's too late. The rope drags him into the sea and drowns him. As Beckett leaves on the jet ski, he realizes that killing really is that easy and gives him a thrill. A few days later, Beckett attends the funeral and meets Taylor's father, Warren. When Beckett introduces himself as Mary's son, Warren is shocked and takes him to the bar for a drink. Warren admits Mary was very brave for standing up to their father and apologizes for not helping her. He also feels guilty for Taylor's death since he should have stopped his son's bad habits sooner. Afterward, Warren takes Beckett to his office and offers him Taylor's job, which Beckett gladly accepts. For the next few weeks, Beckett learns the chaotic life of a financial office and how the rich make their money. He has to absorb lots of new terms and information, and he realizes this knowledge will help him manage his own fortune later. One night, Beckett is surprised to get a call from Julia, who just got back from her honeymoon. She remembers their last meeting and says he should ask her out again. Beckett does so only for Julia to turn him down again, but she still hopes to run into each other soon. The next victim is Noah, an artist who spends his days blogging about his work. Beckett watches the videos and notices Noah doesn't know much about art. He can only say his job is to be an artist because he has the family money to live on. One evening, Beckett goes to Noah's art show and pretends to be a huge fan. Once Noah has fallen for it, Beckett also tells him they're cousins. Noah decides to hear his story while he keeps taking pictures around the gallery, repeating more nonsensical stuff about art after the show. Noah takes Beckett to his apartment and shows him around his workshop. Beckett also meets Noah's secret girlfriend, Ruth, and they really hit it off over dinner, discovering that they have a lot in common. When Beckett is about to leave, Ruth invites him to a dinner party they're having on Thursday. When Thursday comes, Beckett and Ruth can't stop sharing glances during dinner. Once everyone is distracted, Beckett pretends to go to the bathroom but actually goes to Noah's workshop. He mixes the chemicals used for photographic developing with a cleaning supply he's already hidden in the apartment to make it look like Noah had an accident while doing his mixing. He also breaks the light bulb and drops a cigarette on the floor. Noah notices that Beckett is taking too long in the bathroom and goes looking for him, so he catches him coming out of the workshop. Beckett pretends he was looking for a picture from the show, and Noah is so flattered that he signs it for him. After the party is over, Beckett throws the picture in the trash. He waits in a corner until Ruth finds him and they share a kiss. Meanwhile, Noah enters his workshop and tries to turn on the light. The broken bulb creates a spark that triggers an explosion, instantly killing Noah. On the day of the funeral, Beckett is approached by 2 FBI agents who take him to a bar for questioning. He tells them about Mary and pretends he's unsure if he could ever inherit the money. The agents explain that when 2 family members die in a row, the FBI has some protocols to follow. So for now, they're just being cautious. 10 months after Taylor's death, Warren makes a toast at work to celebrate that Beckett has his first client. He's very impressed by how fast he learned and gives him his own office. Later, Beckett is surprised to be visited by Julia, who claims she wants a loan because her husband is broke. However, Beckett notices her flirting and doesn't play along because he's thinking about Ruth. Julia doesn't like him like this and leaves. Although first she mentions the 2 deaths and wonders who will be next. She also says that Beckett will make a killing. The next one in the family line is Stephen, a pastor who puts up spiritual shows to manipulate people and get their money, claiming it's for God. He's been indicted in 2 countries for money laundering, and he sued his former business manager, so he has plenty of enemies. One day, Beckett asks his assistant to exchange suits with him and sends him to get a hot dog. Then he attends Stephen's show and approaches him in his office, pretending to be a reporter from a Christian magazine. While they chat, Beckett waits until Stephen looks away and puts something in his supplement drink. Suddenly, Stephen grabs a katana and holds it against Beckett's neck, saying he wants the truth. It turns out the name Beckett used belongs to a reporter who retired months ago. Stephen is suspicious. Beckett pretends he doesn't know what he's talking about, making Stephen so angry that he hits the decorations on his desk. When Stephen threatens him with the sword again, Beckett admits he's his cousin. Stephen instantly calms down and apologizes, explaining that he thought Beckett was a reporter from another newspaper that has been trying to expose him. Then Stephen takes a sip of his drink and has a heart attack. It's revealed that Stephen took workout supplements that could kill a person if consumed in great quantities, so Beckett added extra to his cup. Since the church doesn't want an investigation, the death is kept quiet. Meanwhile, Beckett keeps meeting with Ruth as friends to give her time. One day she shares that she had been planning to break up with Noah after the dinner party, so now she feels guilty for not grieving him or missing him. Beckett tells her that it's natural to feel like that, and they agree to have dinner together at his place. In the evening, Beckett goes home and is shocked to find Julia in his living room. She reveals she stole his key when she visited him at the office and complains because he's been ignoring her calls and emails. He refuses to share about his life, so she flirts and gets closer, almost kissing him. At that moment, the doorbell rings and Beckett kicks Julia out through the back door. Then he meets Ruth and tells her he had trouble with the kitchen, so he takes her out instead. They have a good time at the restaurant and Ruth talks about her goals in life, saying humans aren't taught to dream small. During the next weeks, Beckett realizes that his life is pretty good. He has a great job, lots of friends at work, and a growing romance. However, giving up now would feel like a waste. Julia keeps calling him and he keeps ignoring her. The next one in the family line is Cassandra, who is known for adopting 11 kids from 11 different countries. She looks like a loving mother on the news, but in private. The servants do all the work and she doesn't pay attention to the children. After hearing about the 3 deaths, she installs a laser-based security system in her 4 houses. However, every Tuesday she goes to a spa where there's no security. One afternoon, Beckett manages to sneak into the spa and pretends to be an employee. He offers Cassandra a free teeth whitening service and she puts the device in her mouth without hesitation. She dies because Beckett put carbamide peroxide on the device, which is so close to the agent found in teeth whiteners that the police think she bought an off-brand product during her last adoption trip. The next victim is MacArthur, who owns half the National Air and Space Museum and is making plans to go to the moon. Reporters call him out for using so much money to go to the moon while his employees don't have health insurance. But he doesn't care. Beckett pretends to be part of his crew and secretly pours a sedative into his coffee. When MacArthur goes flying on his personal plane, he falls asleep at the controls and the plane crashes, effectively killing him. Sometime later, Beckett moves to a very fancy apartment. He asks Ruth if she wants to live with him and she agrees after some hesitation. The next red fellow in line is Warren. However, Beckett has become fond of his uncle and actually respects him now, so he can't bring himself to kill him. Besides, he has a good life, so he admits he's actually happy with what he has and even gets engaged to Ruth. One morning, Beckett is approached by the FBI agents again. They inform him that he's a potential heir and he pretends to be shocked. When the agents ask him what he was doing on the day of Stevens' death, he tells them he was getting a hot dog. The agents later check the security footage and see Beckett's employee wearing his clothes. They can't tell if it's really him and don't believe someone could remember having a hot dog on a particular day months ago. So they agree to make an agent follow him. Sometime later, Beckett is leaving the office when suddenly, Warren collapses behind him because of a heart attack. At the hospital, Beckett takes care of Warren, who mentions that Beckett is the only one who has visited him before dying. Warren advises him to be with his loved ones because work won't be there for him. During the funeral, Beckett realizes that only his grandfather is left. A few days later, Beckett receives a letter from his grandfather inviting him to the mansion. Today is also his engagement party, but he calls Ruth and promises to be there in time. When Beckett goes to his office, he finds Julia waiting with a surprise. She made someone follow Beckett and now has photographic evidence of his crimes. She became suspicious after Taylor drowned because he went to Princeton on a swimming scholarship. Julia asks for $300,000 by 5 o'clock delivered to her husband, or she'll send the pictures to Ruth, eh? Desperate, Beckett runs out of the office after telling his assistant to sell some of his stocks. The FBI agent sees him and continues to follow him. Moments later, he bursts into the office of Julia's husband, Lyle, who keeps drinking because he's broke, while Beckett moves some things on the table and writes the checks. Lyle mocks him for acting like a fancy man when he comes from a poor background, so Beckett slaps him. Lyle tries to punch him, but since he's drunk, Beckett easily brings him down and Lyle cries like a baby on the floor. Afterward, Beckett goes to the Redfellow mansion and texts Ruth to warn her that he'll be late, but the message isn't delivered. While Ruth deals with all the guests, Beckett meets his grandfather, Whitelaw, who wonders what dirty deals Beckett got to grow up so fast in the financial business. Whitelaw also wonders whether Beckett can live this type of life since it can make someone lonely and regretful. He reveals that Mary was his favorite kid, but when Beckett asks why he didn't help her, Whitelaw doesn't answer. And Whitelaw shows Beckett a gun that has been in the family for generations. He loads it and hands it to Beckett, asking him to end things. Beckett points the gun at him, but he doesn't dare to do it, so he leaves. However, he finds the front door locked and the butler blocking it outside. Then he tries the windows in another room, but they're also locked. Suddenly, Beckett hears a noise and opens the door only to see Whitelaw shooting at him. He dodges the shot and it grazes his arm. It also breaks the door, so Beckett grabs a piece of wood and stabs Whitelaw in the leg. As Beckett starts to run, Whitelaw chases him and keeps firing as he explains that all doors have been sealed by the butler. In a room upstairs, Beckett finds a bow and gets an arrow ready. When Whitelaw comes, he tries to shoot him, but the bow breaks. After dodging another bullet, Beckett grabs a new bow and shoots again, this time successfully landing an arrow in his grandfather's chest. Since Whitelaw is still moving, he shoots a second arrow into his neck, finally killing him. Beckett finds it ironic that his final murder is actually an act of self-defense. When the police arrive, he tells them exactly what happened and he gets to leave, while the FBI agent watches him from afar. By the time Beckett makes it home, the party is over and Ruth is upset. She demands to know what he's been hiding from her, but he only tells her about his encounter with Whitelaw. Afterward, Beckett inherits the family fortune, so he and Ruth are welcomed to the socialite life. At a big party, Beckett is delighted, but Ruth feels uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the party's interrupted by the FBI, who arrest him for the murder of Lyle. After all this, Beckett has been caught for the one murder he didn't commit. They have the security footage of him bursting into Lyle's office, and his fingerprints are on the murder weapon, a letter opener he touched when he moved things on the table. Julia found Lyle's body and now testifies against Beckett, saying he's been in love with her his entire life. This makes Ruth leave the courthouse. Beckett is found guilty and sentenced to death. Before the execution, Julia visits Beckett. He tells her he'd rather meet the end than be with her. Julia reveals that Lyle left a goodbye note and Beckett goes crazy, but she refuses to share it. A desperate Beckett begs until Julia agrees to help him in exchange for his fortune. She kisses the glass before leaving. Beckett then makes a lawyer send him the papers so he can transfer everything to Julia and asks for a priest. In the present, Beckett tells the priest that he's calm because Julia will get him out soon. However, hours are passing without news, so Beckett is getting nervous. The priest decides to read him a Bible passage about death as a goodbye. Thankfully, he's interrupted when a guard announces that Beckett is now free. While the cops show the press the note left by Lyle, Beckett leaves the prison and finds Ruth waiting for him. She gives him the locket with his mother's hair before driving away. Nearby, Julia is also waiting, so Beckett leaves with her. He will live with her in the big mansion, while the priest has to keep the story secret because of the rules of confession. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.